that becomes a bit of a different experience with police in Japan.
Yeah, but one day the police came and wanted to deliver a girl that we don't know.
Oh,
and
yes.
Yeah, they said it's our daughter.
That was actually a very interesting story. That was
last year.
Yeah, that was 2 a.m. in the morning. Huh?
And believe me, I told him in the messages that we are single parents now. We are on a honeymoon.
Oh yeah. Single parents, right?
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Melanated Files. My name is Ranzel, and today we're joined by Tlou and Khumi. They are a black family living in Japan. We're gonna get into their stories right now. So Tlou and Khumi, thank you so much for meeting me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ranzel.
I want you guys to introduce yourself to the world. Tell them who you are, why you came to Japan, and what you do.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much, Ranzo. My name is Tlou. I'm from South Africa. Came to Japan about 2 years ago to study, and I'm currently an intern with SoftBank. And well, it's been interesting.
Hello, well, my name is Khumi Nong. I'm married to Tlou. We came to Japan in 2019 with our children. Yeah, we both came to study, and I'm almost finishing my studies.
All right, so why did you guys choose Japan in the first place?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Well, for me personally, I needed a challenge. I'd been doing some work, traveled quite a bit, but then I just felt like I needed something that could challenge me, and I needed a place where they didn't speak English first and foremost, and I needed to get into a new culture. And in my work as well, I had heard of a country called Japan, which is often referred to as the country of no defect.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, it's very interesting when my husband came to me and said, you know, he's pursuing the scholarship in Japan, and I was like, wow, this guy. So this means we will have to move to Japan. But anyway, I embraced the whole thing because I've always been wanting to pursue my graduate studies, postgraduate studies. And I thought, wow, this is an opportunity, even though it was like a challenge, like to accept it. But, you know, biblically and, you know, reading the way, it is like God said something along the way. So it was like Sarah and Abraham moment, like we are moving, we are going somewhere, and I found it to be acceptable to me, and you know, I said I'm coming along.
So what was the most challenging part about like coming along? I remember like with myself and my wife, I was the one that said Japan, right? Where she was like, oh yeah, let's go. She was ready, right? So what was the challenge for you?
Because I was working, I was employed, and you know, right when he announced is when I got the promotion at my work. Okay. So it was like, what now? You know, yeah, that was the most challenging, I think. But then something clicked in me, like, you know, why am I even worried about the job? You know, I need to trust God. I need to trust that God is going to provide. But he made it easier because he was like, but God said he's going to provide, you know. It was something like a family moment thing. When he said it, it's like, oh, if he had God, then why am I even worrying?
Okay. So do you think it has paid off, like coming here now and looking back?
Yeah, it did. And, you know, it's such a testimony on its own because right after he said that, you know, he's on a scholarship and I'm not on a scholarship, I started applying. I think I had a month left before my program, my master's program was closing, and I applied and I got in interviews and stuff. I came on my own. They needed me in person, and I came to write tests, and I came to interview, and I only applied for one university and I got in. So I'm a student at Kyoto University. I only applied for one university. Yeah. Like, okay. Looking back, it worked. It paid off because, you know, God showed himself in ways that we never thought.
Okay. So, Tlou, tell me, like, you said, a few things. You said Japan is a country of non-defect?
Yeah, no defect.
No defect. Okay,
yes.
In terms of electronics or?
In terms of everything they do. So, in the space that I work in, it's small business. So, we usually take small business owners to different countries to learn how to improve their products.
Okay.
So, I'm into import-export and so forth, improving small businesses. But Japan is very different in a sense that when you take a product to Japan, it comes back way better. So what we learned as we grow up was that everything was Japanese. You know, the best rice cooker, the best electronic, the best toy. So what we wanted our small businesses to do was to learn how to make that work. But the challenge was always that it's not easy, and you need to understand and learn the culture. And the biggest motivation was that I needed to come here to understand the culture, to get to understand people, to make those connections, so that the day I go back, I'm able to actually create a much bigger pool of connections for the small businesses we support.
Okay, so that's something that you're doing right now?
That's yes. So even currently, as a student, I was even doing investment meetings. So I'm a student on the one side. On the weekend, I'm busy calling up businesses and saying, "Hey, I've got this guy in South Africa who's got this thing. Do you want to look at what he does? Maybe you want to give him some tips. What can you do? Japanese market wants something like this." So the program I'm on is usually it's called Africa Business Education. So usually people tend to be like, "Oh no, you just come here and then you open Africa to Japan." I came here, which is the first clash. I came here and I told my professors, "No, I'm opening Japan to Africa." And they were like, no, but the program is about Africa being open to Japan. I said, no, that's not my goal. I want Africans to benefit from what Japan has, as opposed to the other way.
Okay.
Yeah. So then that was a big thing for me and my drive, because in many meetings I always told them, no, tell me what you need, and I'll find an African who does it better. You can partner with them. It's not for us to consume your products. It's for us to find meaningful partnerships. We use your tech, we grow ourselves, you use some of the things, you grow yourself, and it's mutually beneficial. So that's always been my thing.
Okay, so how was that received?
Well, I actually had to go for a couple of mediation meetings right at the beginning of my studies, because I clashed with my Japanese classmates, I clashed with the Japanese graduate school, because I'm kind of a strong person in terms of what I want to drive to. So when I say no, I don't agree, that kind of shocked the system a bit where I was studying, because they were like, whoa, wait, no, here we follow, we don't say we don't agree. So that was also part of learning the culture. So one of the professors took me aside and said, I need to spend some time with you and explain to you. But even then, when he approached me, he was thinking, okay, you need to be more Japanese, the typical line they use. You need to be more Japanese so that you can assimilate into society. And I said, when will the Japanese learn about me? Because they're not traveling to Africa. I came all the way here, so can I share a little bit of myself while I'm learning from them? I said, no, that's not what we do here.
Okay.
Then that was like, so the back and forth for the whole 2 years in the master's course was that, oh no, don't worry about that guy, he's a bit troublesome.
Okay.
Yes. But I believe I've gone into good trouble.
Okay.
Because out of this, there's a couple of partnerships, unfortunately I can't mention them on camera, a couple of partnerships with companies in South Africa and Japan that I started from this radical movement.
Okay.
Of course.
So would you advise someone else to take the similar approach?
It comes with difficulties. When you arrive and you're a model student, you get supported in every way. When you challenge the system, everybody says, back off.
Okay.
So that comes with the challenges. So I brought my family. We're 3 kids with my wife here. So obviously when we have trouble and your sponsor has said, you're kind of troublesome. So when you have problems, they like distance themselves from you. But I of course, somebody who push. So I made Japanese friends. I got involved in community. I started cleaning streets. I wanted to know, when do we do this? When is this festival? Let me get involved in this. I was council president in my university. Okay. So what I did was that I needed to create a support system for myself, because my sponsor had seen me as a bit of a troublesome kid. And I think because I also have a supportive partner, because when we're having challenges, I would tell her that we're having challenges. And, my wife would be like, okay, let's see what we can do. Let's try and find ways to resolve it. The school challenges, of course, with the kids. We got in, the kids couldn't find an English-speaking school. Okay. So we put them in a Japanese school because the Ministry of Education had promised English support. Then COVID hits and the English support disappears. Okay. Our kids are struggling in school, but we also can't complain, because now it's kind of like seen as a bad thing to complain. Yeah. So we now decide we're going to pull our kids out of school. And when we do that, it means on top of our university work, we have to homeschool our kids. Then community also starts thinking another way. Oh, why did they pull their kids out? Oh, this doesn't look good. So you know what that thing is like. When you struggle, nobody comes to your aid. When you act to deal with the struggle, everybody wants to come and help. So that was like kind of our situation.
you told me that you moved the kids back to South Africa. So, well, what was the impetus for that decision? So was it?
It's because we are going back soon.
Mm-hmm.
Our programs are coming to an end. So when we needed to secure a school in South Africa, we thought maybe we can go back with them when we are going back. But the schools were like, no, we need them to come earlier because our curriculum starts in January. It's not like the other first world countries where you start in September or April. April, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason we had to send them ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the plan is that my wife will then graduate in September. I've graduated. I'm finishing my internship the end of the month, this month with SoftBank. So basically, then I would then go back, and then my wife would then follow later because I'm going back to continue the work that I've been doing. So we had to now find a way. How do we settle kids? Because also our experience coming here with the kids taught us that you don't just think you will land with them and they will settle. You need to give them a little bit of lead time for themselves to be able to figure things out. Because I mean, we have a 18-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 13-year-old. So you can think about these kids are old and they're also teenagers. They're coming into their own. So sometimes when you make decisions, you need to consult them. And when you consult them, that's when they say, I actually want to leave earlier.
Okay.
Right? And then you're like, okay, so let's find balance.
Because they also missed family. I mean, they've never gone back to South Africa. We had thought we would go back like within our study period, but that never happened because the borders were always closed.
Talk about your research, isn't it? Yeah. Because her research was supposed to be in South Africa.
Okay.
Yes. So that's why that was the challenge. Was that her research, she had set up everything to do the research in South Africa, but then when COVID happened, then
we kept hoping that I'll leave, I'll go back and do research, I'll visit the kids and come back, but that never happened. So I had to come up with plan B and research in Japan.
So tell me, like, overall, like, what was the experience like moving here with family?
Wow.
He is asking you.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering.
Like adjusting to the culture itself. Like, was there any culture shock?
So this is what we did. I then, after we announced, then we got the kids, and then we got them excited, and then I think we probably watched 1 terabyte worth of Japanese videos,
including Black Experience,
Japan.
That's how we got to know your channel. By the way,
we just watched anything we could find that was in English to try and explain Japan. And what I did, I said to the kids, every time you go to school, when you come back, watch 2 or 3 videos. We'll have like a question and answer session in the evening. Because I had lived in the Netherlands as a student before, I kind of felt, okay, I can manage the difficulties, but I need to prepare my kids and also share with my wife that, things are really hard. But I know she's an adult, she understands. But the kids are like, oh, it's all about excitement. It's all about excitement.
Yeah.
Until you land, and then
the language.
First, boom, language. Can't make friends. Then first they when you grow up in South Africa, and I don't know if you know South Africa's history with colorism, apartheid, and so forth. So kids already grow up in that sense of being self-aware. Okay. So when somebody doesn't want to make friends with my kids in Japan, they kind of think, they looked at me funny. I remember my youngest daughter said, those ladies were giggling at me. I said, no, they were not giggling at you. They were looking at their phones and they were giggling at what they were looking at. So because of that self-conscious awareness that we came with, it took a while for my kids to now be free to say, but actually, those guys don't care. Right? We've had some incidents with the police, but we were not treated any different. We didn't feel like anybody targeted us. We didn't feel like, in fact, we felt that people welcomed us more and were curious. Of course, there were some stereotypes, like they assumed we spoke French and they assumed we were from West Africa. And I was like, no, we're not from West Africa.
In the community, they thought we were from America.
Yeah.
Because our son was wearing a hoodie. A hoodie that's written LAPD.
NYPD. Sorry, I traveled to New York sometime back for business, and then for some weird reason, somebody made a joke about it. But anyway, I bought everyone in the house a hoodie,
Yeah.
NYPD hoodie,
Okay.
like the blue one and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So my kid was wearing it when we arrived in Japan, and he liked wearing it.
And he loved it.
He loved it.
Yeah.
So he walks around the street wearing an NYPD hoodie, and the
And
community
the kids
like,
are American.
those Americans. We saw like kids riding bikes around the community. Those Americans. So it was okay, but when the community started interacting with us, they found, oh, okay, Minami Africa. Oh, okay, different. So when we started talking to them, some of them were like, okay. They visited, and I think one of your friends, her daughter was hanging out with our son, trying to like, so it ended up being like, there is a sense of welcoming, but I think in Japan, you need to find it. If you sit back, you will never be welcomed.
Okay.
Right? I had a meeting with one old gentleman who said to me, he's lived in Japan for 36 years. And he said to me, Japanese society is like, it's like this. It's like when you're Japanese, you're sitting outside a cafe, looking through a window and wondering, I want to be part of that life. And he says, imagine if you're a foreigner in Japan, you're looking through that window. You're not even Japanese yet. You're looking through that window. It makes it very difficult for you to ever belong. So that was very profound for me, and it helped me. And he said, don't beat yourself up if you're not fitting. If Japanese people struggle to fit in this society, what of you that grew up in a completely different era, has different language, culture, and so forth? That helped me, and I started, kind of cutting the difficulties I gave myself, like, oh, I need to be more Japanese. But then I started saying, okay, I need to flow a lot more and allow myself to actually immerse myself in the culture.
Yeah, leave the cafe, just walk outside.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's the thing. Like, stop worrying about being part of something, but rather start something. So then we all started. So of course my university president thing was also very hectic, and so I also got to know and understand a lot of issues, because when you sit with faculty managers and professors in meetings, you start to realize, even the professors don't say anything to the dean.
Okay.
So as a student, who am I to now raise my hand?
You're the advocate.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sorry, dean, I think, it's like, the head, his deputy doesn't say anything in the meeting. So those are some of the things that were really interesting for me.
Tell me a little bit more about your experience, Khumi, on your side.
So lucky enough, we have different experiences, right? So my husband is on a scholarship, and I'm not on a scholarship. I'm a privately financed student, and it means that I'm not part of any group that came with the sponsors or anything. So he immediately has some group of people he can relate to or mingle with and stuff.
Okay.
I need to make those friends. But lucky enough, the faculty where I'm studying is a global studies. Yeah, so we are like from all over the world, and we could be able to make friends. And so it was like, oh, this is a good environment for me to be. We're dining together, meeting up whenever we can, when COVID, whatever restrictions get lifted and stuff. So also the nice thing is that I can be able to be in the same circles or whatever relationships that my husband has. So it's not like a lonely space.
Different schools?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
So he was in another university, and I mean in another university. Yeah, but we lived in Kyoto. But what I like the most is the fact that my husband, when he arrived, he looked for accommodation in a very good environment. So we did not live in a Kyoto in the typical small apartments or stuff. We lived in a house because we were like mindful of our children. Like we moved from a house with their own bedrooms and stuff. We don't want to shock them and whatever, and we want them to be in a community, to have their own home. So I love that environment, because I thought like, wow, the people here, they are very welcoming. They see us as part of their community. They even had a big farewell to welcome us. Like a big farewell with the whole community welcoming us. So our children were like, wow, people really care about us and they are welcoming. So I love that about the Japanese people. And the Japanese friends, they are like just there, like a phone call away. So you can understand that. I'm sure a lot of black people who come to Japan, they say that you can go to municipality to want to register something, and they are telling you need to be speaking Japanese and blah 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 and all those things. So our Japanese friends, my Japanese friends, they're like a phone call away. They will just wake up and come and be with you at the municipality, and then you fill in the forms and do everything. They won't say no or whatever. They'll be like, no, please call us.
Okay.
Yeah, but also our school, my faculty, they have a system that is set up in a way that I get assigned a person to help me from the word go. Like when I arrive, they tell me this is your helper, this is your mentor in a way. Like this person is going to look after you. If you need a cell phone contract or anything, if you need them to read your mail and stuff, they will help do that. So I had that person, and she was very, very, very good. She would even come to my home and meet my family, and would go through the children's homework when they were in a Japanese school and say, what do they say here? And she would also help teach them the language. So yeah, I found the systems that we lived within very accommodating, and they were saving us. They made it easy for us to, you know, relax and just enjoy the Japanese life.
Okay.
Yeah, but also we loved the safety here. Where we lived is very safe as compared to South Africa. Like I remember our kids, we spent, before we left our house, we spent about a month looking for the house keys because we never locked the house for almost a year.
Yeah.
And
When we were living,
so no one knew where the key were.
Yeah.
Like,
it was the day we were supposed to go on holiday in Hiroshima.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
We
we're
couldn't
like,
find the key.
Okay.
where are the keys? And we thought, let's just leave the house.
Yeah.
The way we've been
I
living.
sometimes
it.
leave my door open, but my
Yeah.
wife, she's always like, oh, you gotta close the door. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." She always closes
This
it,
is
right?
Japan. I say to her, she's like, did you lock? I'm like, this is Japan.
I had
what
to
I
I
said
had
too,
to
right?
leave
Yeah.
that did you lock thing.
Yeah.
So what, you spoke about being stopped by the police. I'm just a little bit curious, like, was that a stop and frisk? Like, what was it?
No, it was more something that happened with my son. So
Okay.
like, you know, there's always, it wasn't even them stopping me. It was like the incident we had with them was you know, my son was playing in the street or something, and then somebody reported something that was broken in the park, and then they came to our house.
Yeah.
But when they came, it wasn't like, oh, it was your son who broke it because he is no. They just came and said, well, we heard that there was an incident in the park and some parents were concerned, but we just wanted to find out the story from you. And then I said, no, I don't
The
think
other
this-
time they came actually is when our son got off the bus some 2 stops earlier,
yes, yeah.
because he said he wanted to clear his head before he arrived home.
Yeah.
He had a hectic day at school. He wanted to just clear his head, and then he got off 2 stops earlier, and then he started walking home. Then they report and say they thought he was lost. He was like disorientated. He
Yeah.
did not know where he was
Oh,
going, and he
yeah.
was like, why are they
would
thinking that about me?
Like, I know, I just wanted to get off 2 stops earlier so I can walk home.
Yeah.
And I think that was also the time he was having some struggles at school because he was struggling. That was the time we couldn't get the support for him, the English support for him at the junior high school. So the difficulty with him was that he's sitting there and he feels out of place. So he kind of felt like a lot of pressure.
Okay.
I think at that time. So when the police come to us, it's not really about a criminal matter. It's actually about a concern from the community. So, and we felt, well, they could have actually approached the other guys who talked to us and asked the question. It would have been easier. But I think that's also something that we picked up in Japan, that often people won't come to you to say, I see you're doing this, it's wrong, or I see you're doing this, there's this help. They will maybe go and report it to the community leader or the police and say, I think that family there was maybe chasing the deer in the bush or something, you know. So instead of saying, guys, actually hunting is not allowed, because I think they might be thinking being direct with someone is a bit rude. But if you tell me, oh no, sorry, you can't do that there because the rules are 1, 2, 3, then I'll be like, okay. As opposed to now, when I get the police, I am already afraid of the police. So that becomes, you know, even in South Africa, I'm afraid of the police. So
Yeah.
that becomes a bit of a different experience with police in Japan.
But one day the police came and wanted to deliver a girl that we don't know.
Oh,
and
yes.
yeah, they said it's our daughter.
That was actually a very interesting story. That was
Last year.
Yeah, that was 2 a.m. in the morning. Huh?
And
It was a black girl, right?
Yes, it was a black
Oh
girl.
my God.
So
they insisted that
A
it's
little
our
girl was a little
child.
girl?
it was probably
Like
like
about-
10, 11. maybe.
Oh, she was lost.
So it looks
And
like
she did not speak. She
Yeah.
could not speak English. And
Oh.
now they wake us up and I went out and I'm like, what's the matter? And they're like, my husband was very tired. He was writing the whole night, and about an hour before he went to sleep. And then I'm like, people are knocking, they're like ringing the bell. And I went out and saying, what's the matter? And they're like, oh, your daughter. And I kept on saying, my daughter. Like, I thought maybe my daughter left her room and then went out or something. So I then ran back to check her, and she's fast asleep.
She's sleeping.
No, that can't be my daughter. And I look at her, and they put on the light, they open the police car, and I'm like, no, not our daughter.
Like, are you
and
sure?
They say, no, it's your daughter. And they insisted it's our daughter.
The police guy says, are you sure?
It took us an hour of arguing that's not our daughter.
Like, my daughter's upstairs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not my daughter.
So I woke up my husband, and we like argued with them. It's not our daughter and everything. And then they ended up hanging out outside the gate for about 30 minutes or so, trying to figure out now whose daughter is
Whose
it.
daughter is this?
Because we've been trying to talk to the girl, and she couldn't speak English, and they could see that she doesn't know us. She refused to get out of the car as well. And we are not gonna accept her because like it's not our child.
We love kids.
So those are like some police interactions that we had, but they were very interesting.
No, that's crazy that she's lost and can't find their way home.
And for them, that's the thing. And for them, the first family they could think of was like, you know that black family? That must be their child. Right? And then they came straight.
Did they find the parents? Wouldn't they call and say, hey, my daughter hasn't come home in like 10
I think
hours?
that's also the challenge with that was the challenge with language. So the police probably would have called us first to say, check your kid before they left the police station.
Oh, well, no, not you. I
no,
mean
not
the
us.
actual parents.
Oh, no, but
like,
that's the thing, right?
Like, wouldn't they call and say, hey,
It
report my
left
child?
us with so many questions, that incident, and we were like,
very worried, we were very concerned.
Oh, that's
I mean, the country
concerning.
the country is safe, but then we saw a 10, 11-year-old black girl. We're trying to figure out where did she come from?
Yeah.
You know?
And no parent has called to report, my daughter hasn't come from school. Wow. Any advice for anyone that's looking to come to Japan? And one lesson that you guys learned being here for 2+ years?
Mine would be read as much as possible, watch as much as possible about Japan, and then come here with a completely open mind. That's my best advice. Like, forget everything you've learned, as in the preconceived ideas. You read, then open yourself up to absorb. That's the easiest way to enjoy Japan.
Okay. And one lesson that you've learned being here, if you can distill it to one.
One lesson I've learned: be punctual, be on time, and make an effort to be on time. For me, time is very important. I'm a punctual person, but I came here and I learned that punctual doesn't mean being on time in Japan. Punctual means arriving 15 minutes before the time.
Okay.
Which is crazy, but actually it helps, because I've seen how people get over you and win the argument by the fact that they've been waiting 10 minutes before you arrive. You arrive on time, but you're huffing and puffing. Even if it's not 15 minutes, just a bit of a stretch, but 5 minutes. Just make sure you arrive. Even a meeting, interesting. Here in Japan, in a Zoom meeting, people are sitting in the waiting room 5 minutes before the meeting. People don't arrive later and start chatting and saying sorry. No, they arrive 5 minutes before. That, for me, that is the biggest. If there's anything I can say, time.
Indeed. And you, Khumi?
For me, I would say, the one lesson that I want to give to the people out there, I would say, remember you're representing yourself, you're representing your country, you're representing your God, So just think about yourself as not that individual. Think about yourself as much more, way much more. Just think, when I'm here in Japan and I conduct myself the way I conduct myself, when I live here, in the community where we live, for example, what are they going to say about another black person if another black person want to come and rent? Because Japanese people have issues renting their properties through gaijin, the foreigners. So if I conducted myself in a acceptable manner, it means I'm not closing doors for my African brothers and sisters. My lessons that I've learned is that, there's nothing to fear in Japan. Japan is a good country, actually. Safety, everything, actually, such a nice place. And be open to learn and just accept that life happens and it will happen. So embrace whatever that life brings along on the journey. but it's doable and it's so much fun.
All right, so where can people find you guys online?
Yes, online.
Tlou Nong on Instagram.
Tlou Nong on Instagram.
Khumi Nong on Instagram.
Can you spell it?
Yes, Tlou Nong, TLOUNONG. I am also on Facebook as Tlou, then Nong.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Nong family. Remember to subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now. If you're wondering where Khumi and Tlou got their kimonos, we're actually in Asakusa and the shop is called Kimono Rental.